This little black box is magic. Alright, you got me. It's actually a little computer. And today, I'm going to tell you how I made it. On nights I'm not slaving away working on my podcast, or editing YouTube videos, or reading books about rocket science, I like to watch movies. The only problem is, it's so hard for me to pick what to watch. With endless great films, it's overwhelming, and sometimes I spend so much time trying to figure out what to see that it gets too late and I end up not watching anything at all. Luckily, for the last 3 weeks I've been taking Mark Rober's course on creative engineering, and the second build is all about Arduino. Arduino is an open-source hardware software company. They design and manufacture single-board controllers and microcontroller kits for building digital devices. In other words, they make little circuit boards like this. And if you have $100 to spend on something, I strongly suggest it. Not only is it a great learning experience, but I feel like I've really gotten my money's worth. Like, just look at how many things they include. This isn't even sponsored, I just really love their product. I knew for this build I wanted to have a few key features. First off, it needed to give just a single random movie. I wanted it to be only one movie because it makes it easy. It's almost like a rule of the game. Whatever movie the machine gives you, you have to watch. Once you introduce more than one option, it becomes impossible to choose and you're kind of right back where you started. Second, I wanted it to be sleek. One of my biggest inspirations is Johnny Ive, who was the lead designer at Apple for a number of years. I actually don't use a case on my phone because I really respect the amount of time and effort that they put into designing these things, and I want to be able to fully appreciate it. And finally, I wanted there to only be one button. I went with a button because I just like that tactile feel. After typing up a little manifesto, I posted it to the monthly classroom board and was shocked to receive quite a few comments of people doubting me, saying I didn't have enough time and wondering how I could make something so complicated yet so simple. And to tell you the truth, I had no idea. This was the first time I'd ever done this, and I was completely in the dark. So I got to work, researching, building, and coding. For the first 2 hours, I didn't think I could do it. I couldn't even find anything that suggested it was possible. There were hundreds of sample codes for random number generators, but none for words. I couldn't even figure out how to incorporate a button into my rat's nest. I thought of my haters. I thought of how disappointed I would be if I didn't get a build completed this week. And I thought of my Apple Class of 2016 engineer t-shirt I bought on eBay for $11. How could I ever live up to expectations? How would I ever become anything more than a dreamer? And then a voice came down on me. It was Steve Jobs. He said if I didn't finish the project by morning, he would take my firstborn son and shred him like cheese in the Mac Pro. So I persevered, I thought different, and after hours of work, I finally did it. And let me just say, the feeling of actually getting this thing to work was probably the proudest moment of the entire year. There's just such a rush that you get from actually completing an engineering project, at least to the point that you can see it work for the first time. The first build was rough. It had wires all over the place, and I had no idea if it was going to fit in that sleek box like I claimed in my first post. But after a few hours of rearranging wires and making modifications, I was able to fit it in the palm of my hand. So feeling satisfied with the progress I'd made, I went to sleep. The next morning, I got to work on completing my vision by stealing a cereal box from the kitchen and bringing in our old friend Hot Glue for a little adventure to the hardware store where we made a new friend, black spray paint. And finally, well, honestly, surprisingly, only 12 hours after I started it, it was finished. Do you have any suggestions for the engineering team? What should I do? I'm going to. You happy about that, Aspen? Okay, so this is the part where they tell you about how much time and laser etching and micro nanometers went into building this thing, but I made it out of cardboard and hot glue, so safe to say it works a lot better than it looks. As for the code, it's actually quite simple. It relies on a list of movies that essentially get shuffled each time the button is pressed. It was a huge pain to add all these, but my friend Max did most of the boring work, so shout out to him. So, at the end of the day, I'm super happy with this thing. A few wires and a little bit of code solved all my problems. I don't know, I'm speechless. I'm so happy with how this came out. I know it's very, very basic, but I'm extremely proud of this, and it's gonna have a place next to my TV for the rest of time. In the description, I've linked a code with all of my favorite movie picks. I've chosen 100 of my favorite movies, so you can upload it to your Arduino and click a little button and watch any of my favorite films. It's a good mix of new, old, action adventures, dramas, other genres that I'm terrible with genres. So if that's something you're interested in, I've linked it in the description. Lastly, I'd like to thank Mark Rober for doing the course that allowed me to build something like this, and as always, thanks for watching.